Thank you for joining in. I'm happy you are here. If you're watching me live or you're watching a replay, hi, I am Nidhi, early childhood educator with more than a decade of experience. I'm founder of Ninos, where we design play spaces come sleep room for all children, including autistic. We have services worldwide. We also include selecting age appropriate toys for your child, then setting up family bonding activities. I live in Mumbai, India. Today, I'm going to share 4 quick tips on creating autism friendly play spaces in home, essential for sensory and emotional well being. It's an interactive webinar where you have to type your response in the comment box. So, are you all ready? So, let me ask you first question. Where are you joining in from, or from which uh, city or country? Thank you for typing in your response. So good to see that you're joining from different parts of the world. And what's your purpose to watch this webinar? Interesting. So if you have any questions while watching a webinar, you can write your questions in the comment box and I will answer it towards the end of the session or end of the talk. Do follow us. You can see on the social media handles on the screen, Ninos India on Instagram and Facebook, Ninos India. So before we begin, let's close our eyes and just do a little grounding exercise. Just breathe in, breathe out thrice. So I have a question to ask you. Which kitchen will you prefer, A or B? And write a reason. Thank you for typing in your response. So, yes, I think so. Working in B kitchen would give you a lot of peace of mind because it's smooth and shiny, easy to maintain. And there's a designated space to keep the crockery. There's a designated space to do light cooking. There's designated space to do chopping. And it's a very organized kitchen with a good flow. So holding on to this, let's move on to the next question, which is which playroom will you prefer for your child? A or B? So if you're preferring a playroom, so in that, it is actually very overwhelming for a child because there are too many colors, like vibrant colors, too many patterns. Then you have like different textures, and the toys are all on display. So this kind of gives them a feeling of like there is too much. They can't focus on one thing and do it. But when you go to the B room, the flow of the room is such that the toys, the furniture is all towards the wall. The central space is where there could be a lot of free movement. The toys are stored in the bin, which is not visible. And it's a very organized room. You can see the walls are plain white in color. There are no too many vibrant colors. So for a child to sit in this room and to do any work or to engage in play would give them a lot of peace. Now connecting the kitchen slide. and the PowerPoint slide and this one. So kitchen is such an important space in our house because that's where the food is prepared and food is our basic need. So for a child, the basic right of a child or the birthright of a child is to play. So it's very important in the house that you have an organized, dedicated space for a child to play. That also reflects to the child that as adults, we support, encourage, and facilitate their play. So that's why it's important to have a playroom or maybe a small dedicated space for a child to just play and to engage in. Now, moving on, I will share 4 quick tips for a play space. So, the first is minimalistic, simplistic, and functional play space. Second is storage system. Third is a designated zones. And fourth is other essentials. I'll be elaborating on each of the points. So, when we are designing a play space, we keep in mind these are the 3 core values of our while designing a play space or like a playroom for a child. It has to be minimalistic, simplistic, and functional. So now, especially for autistic kids, like too many colors or too much like flashy lights, too much noise, and too many toys around or unorganized space create them a feeling of like sensory overload or makes them overwhelmed or maybe sometimes irritable. That doesn't have a positive effect on their behavior. So if you see this room, this is very minimalistic, simplistic, and functional. I'll just elaborate. So let's go. First thing is the color. So the color of the room, there's only one color on one wall, half a wall, I would say. And that's this purple color, which is very soft and cool color. And the other walls are plain white. There are no patterns or wallpapers because that's too much for a child. It just like distracts them. They can't focus or concentrate. So while choosing a color for your child's playroom, just have 1 or 2 walls, maybe or even a half wall, what you can see in the picture, and have a cool color palette, which would be like light green, light blue, purple. So all these are very soothing colors for the child. And the rest of the wall or the rest of the space, try keeping it like white color or like creamish color or beige color, very subtle colors. Then the second is natural element, which is very important. So natural element, because that has a lot of health benefits for the child. So first thing is you can see there's cross ventilation because there are windows on both the sides. There's natural light which is coming in. Then you have here, like suppose if it's dark, then you could like there are tube lights, and these tube lights are also like warm, cool tube lights, which is more towards the natural color or the natural light. There are no flashy lights or fluorescent lights in the room. And you can see there is an element of fresh plant on the top of the bookshelf that also helps them to connect with the nature. Now moving on to the next is if there are too many noise in the around the playroom or from the outside, it's very important that we obstruct that. So which we can do it is either to use thick curtains, which obstructs the noise, or if the flooring makes too much noise, so either we could put a rug or a carpeted area. But ideally for kids, you should avoid doing that. If there's an option of changing the flooring, go ahead and do it because the chances of falling down, they need a lot of free movement. And there should not be things which should just like obstruct them or there are chances of then getting an accident or something. Furniture, if you would see, these are all towards the wall and the central space is all free for the child for the child to move around or for them to sit down and to engage in play. And these all furniture is very child friendly, which the child can use it. So what happens is this is a space, then the child becomes a master and they start becoming more independent because they can use the space by themselves. They don't need an adult every time to assist them or to supervise them. Now, other thing about it's like it's a very simple room. You will not find there are paintings by adults done in, only what is required for the child is there in the room. Now, moving on to the next tip, which is storage system for toys. So now this whole storage system was kind of inspired from the kitchen. So in kitchen we store ingredients, right? Like whole clove or whole cinnamon, or it could be like coffee or tea leaves or flowers. So all this we store in individual jars, right? We don't put it all together. And they are being organized, then it's easy for us to function. We don't have to keep looking out for things in the kitchen. That's the same concept being used for them while having a storage system. So here you can see all these are non-see-through bins, like non-transparent. So that doesn't distract or overwhelms the child, because if they see all the toys on display, which would also lead to visual clutter, but they will get distracted. They don't want to play with one toy, then they want another one because they can see that, or something just triggers them. So that's why it's important to have it in non see through bins, which are easy to pull and push. So the child can put the toys back in and or can take it out. And if you would see the frames are natural wood color. So, and the corners are rounded. So this is all safe for a child to use it. It's we've just put in, like you can see in the picture, some toys like stuffed toys and all, just to add a little thing. If you think that's too much for your child, you can remove that out also and just keep it plain, clear surfaces. And it's important to label it. So autistic kids are a visual learner. So it's important, as you can see in the picture, that you label it with a like a picture with along with the text. So then the child knows where to put what. And each toy needs to have a designated space, not like anywhere you can put it. This also helps the child to learn organizing skills. And the bins has to be such that the child can pull it out and don't put too many toys in it. One bin would have one type of a toy. If you have like puzzles in different type, then you can put it in Ziploc bags or something. So, and then put it in one bin. So it's easy for a child to take it out, use it, do the puzzle, then put it back in the Ziploc and put it in the bin. So these are small things when you create this kind of environment. So for us, it's what we believe at Ninos, there are two things that kids don't need too many toys. They just need few essentials, open-ended toys. And the second thing is when there is space organization, that leads to sensory balance for the child. These are the two things which we keep in mind while we are designing play spaces for autistic kids. And even for all children, actually, it just goes the same. Third tip is designated zone. This also has come from the same thing, like for a child to understand what is expected from each zone or each area. So, like in the house, when we design our house, we have a kitchen, that's where the cooking is done. Bathroom is where we take bath. Bedroom is where we sleep. So each room has certain function and certain expectation. So for a child to understand early on, this is a good way if you have a well planned play space for a child. It doesn't mean that they need to have separate rooms or separate. Even in a small play space, you could have all these zones in. And that's what we kind of specialize to put this all together, even in a small space or in a playroom. So what are the four zones? It's easy to five zones, sorry. It's easy to remember when you have like FICSM. So we have put first is the focus zone. So focus zone is where the child has to really concentrate, should not get distracted with things around, and they should have a very comfortable workspace. So focus zone would include like when they're solving a puzzle, or it could be like doing a homework assignment, or they are doing some science experiment. So with all these kinds of things, and it's good if they could have like a desk or a table and a chair or a stool where they could sit comfortably and do it. It's more for kids who are 5 plus, but you could do it for kids below that also while they're doing a puzzle, and also they can start associating with this and start developing that habit. Then this is imagination zone. So children love doing make a believe play, or autistic kids, but there are some autistic kids who don't prefer doing that also, but depending on which spectrum they are on. So if these are autistic kids, assuming that they love doing make a believe play or pretend play, so there are some choice to have in, like it would be to have a kitchen unit. But you can see the kitchen unit, I have put a picture. It's not overflowing with too many things. We just have few pans, and these pans are also actually the other, like the ones which you would use in kitchen. Then you can see there are few vegetables. Another thing, not like there is anything too much here. Then you read an imagination zone would come in like construction toys, which would be like magnetiles, blocks. There are animals, there's vehicles. You can see like a dollhouse set, like a family home set to have it. So this is a space where children would like to role play or would like to enact the real life experiences. And this helps to actually in social emotional development. Second things for their creativity to grow. This is comfort calm zone. So for autistic kids, they if there is sensory overload for them, or if there's something which is too much, they always need the sensory break or they need downtime. So you could have in one space corner with like soft furnishing and maybe a light-weighted blanket or cushions and a canopy to put in or a tent and make a nice comfort, calm, like a cozy corner and which is quiet. So the child can just sit in, or maybe they want to process their big feelings, big emotions, or read a book, or just maybe just sit down there and lie down and relax. So it's important to have this a little corner on one side of the play space or the playroom. Sensory zone. So autistic kids have really high need for sensory inputs or sensory stimulation. So as the parents of autistic kids, I think so it's very important that you have variety of sensory material available. And when this space is organized, for you to set up a sensory activity is just like easy, like a breeze. You don't have to think about it, or you don't get triggered, or you kind of discourage the child. No, don't do it. It's just getting. So for that, there are a few things to have in. First thing, this is if you could see is out of the child's reach, this space, because this uh, like the sensory material or the art and craft or the messy art material has to be away from the child reach because it needs to be used under adult supervision. So that's one of the points to keep in mind. Then you can see in the picture there's a sensory table. So then it's become a little more organized, cleanup become easy. Or you could even have a sensory tray. So then the child knows what are the boundaries to follow in while to engage in a sensory play. And this kind of a play, like gives them a lot of hands-on experience. There's tactile stimulation. There is like their senses get different feelings and the touch and all, which children love doing it and which helps in their emotional development. Now, this is the last zone for from the designated zone, which is the movement zone. So in the movement zone, if you see the best, it ideally happens outside where they are in the nature, where they could hang themselves or maybe on a climbing frame, or it could be they could run or they could just climb off on a climbing frame. So with this kind, but at home, it's important you should have like a few movement play equipment. So here you can see there's a sensory swing which allows the child to just relax or to just swing around. And there is a wobbly board, or you could even have like a ladder or a soft play, depending on your child's need. And this also helps the child to self regulate. And there are odd days when you can't go out. It's either the climate doesn't permit it, it's raining or it's snowing outside, or it's an odd time like late in the night, you can't take the child or your child has not slept. or something. So it's good you could have a few movement play equipments, and this also allows them to like self-regulate and to use their large muscles, gross motor muscles. Other essential, so other essentials look like uh, in the room is blackboard and whiteboard and a display board and a bed. So blackboard and whiteboard are important because this allows the child to use their fine motor skills, and they use different writing tools. So on a blackboard, they're using a chalk, which would use different fine motor muscles. And while they're using a whiteboard, they would use marker pens, which would use different fine motor muscles. So that allows for their fine motor skill, like to hone their fine motor skills, even allow them to express with just scribbling or doodling. So it's good to have these two in the play space. And there is a display board. So see, in the entire room, you will not see there is any paintings being put or any art or adult work being put. It's only child's work. And we've put it a little organized, not like sometimes it happens that we see there's nice artwork, we would put it on the bathroom door or on the cupboard shutter or maybe somewhere else randomly, which looks so unorganized. And maybe it could become overwhelming also for your child. So that's why you could see there's a small display board being made, and which is easy to just clip it on, clip it off, change the artwork. Or if they're making it like they're getting this from school or they're making it at home, this just gives them a sense of belongingness. They would love to talk about it. So that's a great thing to have it in the play space. And there's a bed. So here you can see it's a floor bed. This is for a single child room. If it's a sibling room, it may have different style of a bed. And in this, like here, the child can just go in, and even if the child is sleeping by himself or herself, the chances of accident just rules out because it's a floor bed. So you could have it, and the size of the bed is that of the child. Like we've just taken care of like how the child would be 5, 6, or maybe 7 years old in. So try making it like, and then probably the room needs to grow. So probably a child who's 7 or 8 years, they would have different needs. Then we would do certain other changes. So that's how it's important to have. Don't have big size bed which occupies the entire room and there's no space for the movement. So connect with us. So all the 4 tips are covered. If you have any question, please feel free to write in the chat box. And uh, just a second, I'll just open the. So connect with us on Instagram and Facebook, and do read our blog post on Autism Connect website. So that would give you actually more insights. And if you have any questions or anything, please write it in the chat box. I'll answer them, or in the comment box. And book a free consultation via Instagram or Facebook. And this offer is only for the audience who are watching this webinar. And our services are worldwide. So we could do an online consultation and help you. So let me just see. Mm, there are some questions. I'll just answer them. Oops, there's something. This panel is not opening. Mm, yeah, okay. So thank you so much. And even if you're watching a replay and you have questions after that, you can post it in the comment box and I will answer it. Thank you so much for joining in.